Hi, Lisa.
Hello, hello.
You look gorgeous in your green glasses today.
And my new earrings. I don't know that I've
Ooh,
worn these before.
I like
I like
them.
them. They've got some what is that called? What's that greenish rock
Like
called?
like
Turquoise.
abalone turquoise. Ah, okay. Jade
Yes. So I'm
turquoise
wearing
abalone. And I see you've got your assistant today.
I have my assistant right here.
Hi,
The
Evie.
problem, I don't know if you've heard that black animals are are I don't want to say not adoptable, but less adoptable. And I think that is because they aren't very photogenic. You can't see her eyes.
You can. And I know I've had two black Bouviers and they photographed horribly. My present
Yes.
Bouvier is multicolor and she photographs really well. So she's doing much better today, by the way. I told you yesterday that she was not feeling well and she
Yeah.
ate her breakfast and everything seems to be back to normal. So I'm going to let her be.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, the
Yeah,
moral of the story is if a dog wants to eat grass,
let him.
let him eat grass. Yes.
Yeah, I
So,
think you're absolutely right. And especially the grass that's coming up is fresh green spring grass. So it's even better. It
mhm.
doesn't have any pesticides on it yet. And it's, good to
Yeah,
go.
that sounds awful.
I
Mhm.
know. But
Oh,
a lot of people
yeah.
around here do that. So,
Mhm.
Lisa, what are we going to talk about today?
I was thinking we would talk about um buffering.
Buffering. Okay, I've heard of buffering on the computer when that little thing goes around and around,
The
but I don't
spinning
think that's
wheel of
what you
blue
want to talk.
death.
Huh?
The spinning wheel of blue death.
Yeah, that's the one. But
Yeah.
how tell me about what do you mean by buffering in life with us?
Okay. So, I was talking to a client the other day, and one of the reasons why this client wanted to work with me was because in her life, she was doing, as she recognized, a lot of things, behaviors that were not serving her. Things
Mhm.
like full day long Netflix marathons.
Mm,
Um, I myself have buffered with over drinking. There are lots of
mhm.
things that people do to temporarily and ineffectually ineffectively soothe themselves so that they don't do the things that are hard or the things that they want to do or the things that they know I hesitate to say it, should be doing.
Well, as Lisa and you taught me, they were not eating their frogs, right?
Exactly. Was that last
Even
week's podcast?
they weren't eating the cute ones or the ugly ones. So, it wasn't
Exactly.
happening.
Mhm,
So,
mhm. Yes,
okay, that makes
totally.
sense. I mean, I find myself sometimes I'm working at my computer and I pick up my phone and I go through Facebook and I started that at 1 o'clock and all of a sudden it's 3 o'clock. Have you ever done that? And
I have. I really have. I pick up my phone, I say, "I just going to check what the weather is."
right, weather death,
Mhm. What is it?
weather death.
Yes, yes. The, scary hole that I go down, and then what is it? Michelle told me that I said, "What game are you playing now?" Because I basically will maybe put one game on my phone for a
Mhm.
while, and then I get tired of it and I take it off, and then I'm gameless for a while. And she said she was playing Hexasort. So,
Huckster,
yeah,
what?
so it's just a stupid game. Just a stupid game.
I haven't played any. I play solitaire once in a while, but that's really, really limited. I'd rather pick up and read a chapter in a book than play solitaire because I feel like at least I'm usually picking a morsel or seed or something. But I know I find
Mhm,
myself
mhm.
like getting up in the morning and I floss my teeth and brush my teeth and take
You've
my
lost your teeth?
floss it, floss, floss, floss my teeth, floss. I need to articulate
I thought you
and
said you
brush my.
lost them, like they're dentures and you lost them.
Oh no
Never
no no,
mind.
that won't happen. I don't have
Okay.
dentures yet, but and I just think, didn't I just do this? And,
Mm,
the day goes on and it's kinda like, did you ever see that movie Groundhog Day? And you feel like the same things are happening over and
yes,
again, and
yes.
to me, that's kinda
Mhm,
like buffering. I'd like to think that there's gonna be different pieces of productivity happening each day that are different from yesterday, right?
mhm, mhm. That makes
Because
sense.
to me, that means that I'm being effective at getting closer to my goal. I'm great at starting things. I'm great at doing things, not so great at finishing things. And I think that really shows a limitation of effectiveness, right?
Mm. So what do you do to buffer? What are the things that you're doing to keep you from doing the goals that you have for yourself?
Um, I watch webinars that maybe I know I already know the stuff that I'm watching. Some of them
Mm.
I've actually
Mhm,
watched 2 or
mhm.
3 times.
Why?
Um, I will
Because you tell yourself what?
I'll pick up a new morsel, I'll pick up something, and sometimes I
Okay.
do, but hey, I could be doing those webinars, I know them so well, so forget it. Sometimes it's a matter of, what? Giving the dog more attention than she needs? I mean, I do groom her once a week, but sometimes I do extra combing her face, and I don't think she cares if her face is combed every day, so that doesn't have to happen. Um,
Mhm,
eh,
mhm,
I can't even say. Sometimes it's doing like the other day, I took my salt and pepper shaker apart and I took the salt and pepper out of them and then I washed them in hot soapy water and wiped them off and I thought, is that really the best use of my time? It took a while. And then I had to wait for
yeah,
them to dry and put them back together. And I thought, well, I hate picking up sticky salt and pepper shakers. Well, okay, great. But in the order of
mhm,
priority, where
mhm,
was that on the effectiveness? Now, there's nothing wrong
mhm.
with it exactly, but, you know, there's always a 10-minute segment of time that you could fill with that chore instead of doing it when you need to be doing things that are more productive. Does that
Right,
sound right? Is
right.
that yeah.
Washing the salt and pepper shakers, no matter how nice it was what it was the phrase, "The enemy of the best is what's good.
Mhm.
Good is the enemy of the best."
Mhm.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you're doing something very
Yeah.
good, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the best use of your time.
Yeah, at least it wasn't nothing. So I felt like, but I only got to good. I didn't get to great. So yeah,
Mhm,
I think buffering is really common. I've often had friends say, oh, I just haven't
mhm,
accomplished anything worthwhile all day today. And I'll say, well, what you been doing? Oh, I don't
mhm,
know, just kind of picking up here and doing this and that there. And,
mhm, mhm.
and it's
Yeah,
kind of like, oh, okay, well, what's the next thing you want to do? Well, I really don't know. I don't really have any idea. And we've all heard that expression that we don't plan our time, someone else will, right?
yeah, yeah. Time
So
doesn't stand still, does it? No.
And if you don't have
No.
a roadmap, you don't know where you're going. Now, I don't
Mhm,
believe in
mhm.
orchestrating every moment of every day. I think we all need downtime. 15 minutes to read an article in a magazine or whatever. But that's not buffering. That
No.
if
No, that's
it's
not buffering.
yeah.
Buffering is things that you are doing to numb yourself,
Hmm.
and
Well, you mean
that
I'm
can
not
be
supposed to watch Hallmark movies at night? I
you
fell
know,
into
it
that habit.
did you?
Well,
Mhm.
what it did was it put me in a better mind place because they always have happy endings about if it's a 2-hour one, about an hour and 30 to an hour and 45 minutes, there's always a conflict. The
Mhm,
conflict always
mhm.
gets solved, and then there's always a beautiful kiss at the end. That's not the
Yes,
worst thing I could
yes.
be watching, but
No.
it's just good enough. It's not the best. It's not the best.
Right.
The best is turning off the TV and going to bed some nights.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And you don't wanna go to bed, we've talked about this before, because you're still processing Michael's death, and he's
Mhm.
not there,
That's
and
right.
yeah, that's hard. That is very hard, and lots of what is important to us and important to do isn't easy.
Mhm. Mhm. I think For some reason, I was born without a dying goal. You know, people say, "Well, what's your dream? What would you just love to do?" I have a hard
Mhm,
time with
mhm,
that. It's like I can tell you lots of things I don't want to do,
mhm, mhm.
but I feel like, well, you haven't had the opportunity. You've had tons of opportunity. I've had more time than the next guy, but you just some people are so decisive about what's next. Some people don't have a clue. Those are the same people that you say, "Well, what are you feeling right now?" I can tell you what I'm feeling, but I can't tell you what my dream is. Isn't that weird? So,
No, that's not weird at all, Judy. I
mhm.
totally understand that. There is a great, it's not a podcast. It was a I think it was a TED Talk. No, it was Super Soul Sunday with Oprah Winfrey. And
Oh.
the speaker was talking about the sledgehammer people and the hummingbird people. And I think we've talked about this
Oh, we
before. We're
have,
hummingbird
yeah.
kinds of people, you know, where
Splitting
we
from
take a
flower
little
to
bit from
flower.
here.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep, yep. I think that's
And
probably true.
those people, then people like us have so many different interests and so many different passions that sometimes it's hard to see those big aha, oh my God, look what she did moments, because we have so many, we're not solely devoted, dedicated, and driven to succeed in one area. I
Yes,
didn't wake up
yes.
when I was a kid and say, I want to be a writer when I grow up. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I had absolutely no freaking bloody idea what I wanted to
I
do.
remember you telling
And
stories about that, and I could really identify,
mhm.
you
And
know,
so
so
that's the glory of, I think, some of the things that we've been doing recently with the um those interest inventories that we've been doing as
mhm,
sidetrack sisters, just the 4 of
mhm,
us.
mhm,
It's been fun to, I'm a maven. I'm somebody who loves learning things, all different kinds of things. I
mhm,
find the stars fascinating and cloud formations and what they mean and tell us. And I'm always looking and discovering things, and that is a great joy for me. And that's
mhm,
been one of the reasons why I've enjoyed becoming a life coach, why I've
mhm,
enjoyed learning and figuring out how to do podcasts.
mhm.
It's that's my gig, is learning and delving into things with both feet.
Mhm, and you're so good at so many things. I think that's amazing. I get about this far, and then I either lose interest or I get taken away to another thing. So
Something else.
the
Mhm,
problem
mhm.
for me is staying on task, on track, and I've talked about this before, but it's kind of like a sailboat. It's okay to tack a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, but
Mhm,
if you tack
mhm.
too far, you aren't ever going to get to your destination. But it helps if you know your destination.
Yes, yes.
Mhm,
Now,
mhm,
what we're talking about today is buffering, because I
mhm,
think some people know what their destination is or what their goal is, and for whatever reason, there are lots of different reasons. There could be different reasons for different people. They are doing things that, I think you've used the phrase before, they're self-sabotaging.
mhm, mhm. I think that's true, and I guess my question is, what's the problem? If you know what you want to do, why aren't you doing it?
Mm. And I think the answer to that is there are lots of answers.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
So, what one of the things with this client that I was working with the other day, who shall remain nameless, um, we were looking at it and really evaluating that for that person, for her.
mhm, mhm,
And what it boiled down to is that she is currently in a situation where she is, got this situation going on for herself, and she's kind of she's dealing with some fear.
mhm.
And I think I think a lot of buffering can go down to anger or fear, or maybe those are the two biggies. Anger or fear.
Well, and I also think the ways that we can buffer with overdrinking. We can buffer with TV binging. We can buffer with shopping,
Over shopping, overeating,
overeating, we
gambling.
gambling. We can also buffer
Mhm,
with just getting in the car and going off. You don't know where you're going and you have no purpose, but you just don't want to be doing the things that present at the house. So I mean,
mhm,
there are so many different ways you can buffer. And, I think
mhm.
they're on a scale of 1 to 10. Some of them are worse for you than others. But
Some of them have bigger consequences.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think in my life, what has happened is if I did too much buffering, what it will lead to is important things not being done. And I
Mhm,
end up
mhm,
having what I call a significant emotional experience. And I sit there and go, "Holy cow, what am I gonna do about
mhm, mhm,
this?"
mhm,
And if it's significant enough and it affects my life in a serious enough way,
mhm,
then
mhm.
it's time to figure out what's the problem and what can I do about it.
When you're talking about a significant emotional experience,
Mhm.
give some examples of that. What do you mean?
It might be you've been putting off doing it could even be at work, putting off a project at work that is very important and you've got people counting on it and you just hate this project so you don't do the work and you get called up short on it and you get in trouble at work. To me, that's a significant emotional experience. At home, it can be that you have children and you know what they want, but you're not
Mhm,
providing that and they end up doing other things to fill that time and it's not useful.
mhm, mhm.
It can, how can I put it? I guess it can be as serious as the breakup of a relationship. It can be a death that maybe was preventable, a death that wasn't preventable. I've had deaths to deal with in my life, and to me, every time there opens
Mhm.
me up to looking at things kind
Yeah.
of new and different. Um, it can
I
be
mean, I think when I think of a significant emotional experience, I think I've even mentioned this before. We don't want to rely or wait for that significant emotional experience to occur before we create the change we desire in our own lives. Because the one that I'm thinking of is like cancer, some kind of health diagnosis. Because I really believe that when you have that kind of stress and anxiety or depression, when our dreams and the things that we're meant to do in life are put off and shoved under the rug, I think the body suffers.
I do too. And I think, they take the word disease and they cut it in two. The dis-ease that we have with our life can often present as
Mhm.
disease in our bodies. And I know
Yeah,
some people go, "Oh, that's just a little bit too
too
airy fairy,"
woo-woo.
but it's
Mhm.
not. It's not.
No.
And I know that if I stuff things too much, if
Mhm.
keep pressing down, and usually it's anger that I haven't expressed, it turns into a pretty
Mm.
solid depression. And the depression
Mhm.
it's difficult to recover from. Now, yeah, I agree with you, Lisa. I think it can really have a threat to our well-being, whether it be mental, physical, any of those kinds of things. And we're much better off if we can avoid them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, the other thing I consider a significant emotional experience is when something I have done leads to making an important decision in my life, causing another person to make a decision for me that's maybe what I want. I mean, not what I
Ooh,
want.
yes.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
and you're sitting there going, "Ah, I have no one but myself to blame for this. If I had done this, this, and this, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
been giving my power away to that person, and I would be in a whole different place right now."
Yeah. I mean, I remember back when I was in my early 20s, and I can remember feeling kind of I was really involved in this one particular church, and they asked us to think about and write down 5 and 10 year goals. And I can remember knowing what the supposed right answer was. And I can remember feeling a lot of relief that I didn't need to decide what my goal was, what my purpose was, what I was going to be doing in 5 or 10 years. That it was kind of scripted out for me, because
Mhm.
that had been something that brought me a lot of um anxiety in the past.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so it's something that if you haven't decided what your either long-term or short-term goal is, maybe now's the time to figure that out, because that may be the initial thing that you're buffering against, just even
Mhm.
figuring that out.
Exactly. What that leads me to think is whatever the problem is, whatever it is that you can't quite wrap your arms around or you can't quite figure it out.
Mhm.
In the past, my inclination would be to sit down with a friend and talk it through, sit down with a family member and talk it through. Well, if I talked to a friend, every friend I had knew what the thing was about. And if I talked to a family member, the whole family knew the frickin' problem I was dealing with. But that was
Mhm,
when
mhm.
I really felt the need to talk to someone that was impartial, that had a confidentiality agreement, as far as keeping things that were said within, our talking
The
time
confines of the
confidential.
Mhm.
Mhm, to the confines of that, and I didn't wanna pay for a therapist, and I didn't wanna pay for an attorney because I didn't think that they were going the direction that I was looking for, but that's when I really felt compelled to look at life coaching, and I know a lot of people go,
Mhm,
"Oh,
mhm.
here we go, life coaching." Lisa, you're a life coach. You're a certified life coach. What does that mean?
Mhm,
What'd you have
mhm.
to do to get there? A lot of people say, oh, anybody's the life coach these days. I don't think that's true at all. I think the
Yeah,
good ones have some solid training.
right. So, one of the things that happened for me is that when I retired from teaching, I knew that when I turned 55, that was going to be the end of my teaching career, and I put in my resignation for being a teacher 2 days before the world shut down with
Hmm.
COVID. So I put in my letter on March 15th, and the world shut down on the 17th. So that was the craziest end of the school year that you could ever
Perfect.
imagine. And then, like you said, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Still, I mean, education and being a teacher had taken up 30 years, but I knew that wasn't the end all be all.
That wasn't it.
And I knew also that I had really, really great skills that I didn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Hmm.
And so, in doing my research of what I could be or what I could do, I came across life coaching. And, I don't, it's not a real popular and talked about thing here in the Midwest. Maybe it
Hmm.
is in New York, maybe it is in LA, but here in our neck
California,
of the
very
woods,
popular in
it's
California.
definitely not something that people are real familiar with. And as I explored it, I came across one brand of life coaching that I really felt attuned with. That was one that was based on something called cognitive behavioral therapy. And now,
Hmm.
cognitive behavioral therapy is something that I was experienced with in dealing with addiction issues
Hmm.
with one of my kids.
Hmm.
And it really focuses on our part and what our thoughts have to do with what we're feeling,
Hmm.
how then we act or things we don't do, and how that then creates the effects in our lives,
You mean
and
they
how
say we
those
can
effects
control our thoughts?
yeah, pretty much.
Nah.
And or at least think about it's kind of meta. It's kind of, thinking about your thinking. And it appealed to me. And I really thought it had scientific basis behind it because it was rooted in psychology. It was rooted in data. and there is solid research behind it. Now,
Mhm.
I was taking it from a lighter viewpoint though. I did not want to go back to school to become a therapist
Mhm.
because I think therapy is I don't didn't want to deal with people that were, I think in a continuum of life experiences, there are people that are struggling to be to to normal. And then there are people who are like just normal average Joes that think there's more in life and they
Mhm.
want to succeed beyond the basic expectations that they themselves and other people around them have for them. I
Mhm.
didn't want to deal with the people that were dealing with neuroses and psychoses and really struggling to
Mhm.
get out of bed in the morning. That
Mhm.
wasn't the kind of person that I wanted to deal with. I wanted to deal with people that were like me
Mhm.
and people that were looking to have an even better experience in this life than just my neighbor down the street.
Mhm. Well,
And
I think
that's where this brand of life coaching comes from. It is a technique. It has strategies to help people move from where you are to where you want to be. It's as simple
Mhm.
as that. And there are some practical steps that you can use to do exactly that.
Mhm.
And that's what
Mhm.
appealed to me. So
Now, if
what we're talking about, yeah, you go.
I was gonna say, if I understand correctly, from what I've experienced with a well-trained life coach, is they don't really give me answers.
Mhm.
They really ask the right questions so that I have to come up with the answers. And I know some people say all they do is ask questions. Well, asking questions is one thing. Asking the questions that lead us to taking proper
Mhm.
steps is something that comes with training and
Mhm.
intuition and empathy
Practice.
for people and process. Yeah, so it's not
Mhm.
something that comes to everyone, but it's
No,
very
no.
important in the coaching process.
And I think some people are familiar with, Freudian psychoanalysis, where you lay on a couch and you just talk and talk and talk, and the practitioner, the
Mhm,
technician, or the psychiatrist doesn't talk much. And
mhm,
that's not what we're talking about either. We're not
mhm,
digging deep into childhood experiences and trying to uncover lost memories. But what you just said is a life coach, the kind of life coach that I am and that I enjoy working with, is somebody who is skilled at asking questions and
mhm.
and helping me understand my own thoughts, my own brain. Because sometimes our brains are tricky little suckers.
Well, and sometimes we say things in response to a question, and then it's as if we never said it and we go on. And sometimes the life coach is very good at keeping us honest, and they'll say, "Well, but Judy, you said this, and you said this,
Mhm.
and now you're saying this, and those things don't match together. So let's go back a little bit and let's ask the question again and see where your heart of hearts is coming from." So, and that is so productive because if I'm talking to my best buddy and I say something and then I contradict myself, they're not gonna say, "Ah," they're not gonna pick up on that. They're not trained to do that.
Well, and I
Excuse
think
me.
the difference between a friend. Okay, so we talked, I mean, I mentioned a little bit the difference between a psychologist or a psychiatrist therapy and coaching, but there's also a difference between being a friend and a coach. A
Mhm,
friend is somebody who goes, "Yeah, you're right. That sucks."
mhm,
They empathize and they're there for you and it's like, "Yeah, you should do this and this and this." Or if I was you, I'd do this and this and this.
mhm,
A coach, on the other hand, seeks to draw that out of you and helps
mhm.
you to decide, evaluate, and move forward in the direction that is most truthful to you and your experience.
You
It's
know
not somebody, a coach isn't a cheerleader
mm-mm,
unless you want the coach to be your cheerleader. I mean, that could be a component of it. And a coach is there to really sit back and help you, as you said, be honest.
Mhm.
because we're really good with, you know, tricking ourselves and playing the game and saying things to ourselves to self-soothe.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I Lisa, check your microphone. It's sounding a little funny right now.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of cracking or something. Okay. Um, what I think basic difference between therapy and coaching is that the coaching comes from a place of looking at your behavior today
Mhm.
and what can you do to get closer to what you want tomorrow.
Yes.
We aren't really going back into all the history and what did grandma say when you were 7 and all of this. I mean, that might be a nice to know, but
Mhm.
it's really not a necessary piece unless you are really seriously having mental
Mhm.
issues. I know all
And then
this.
it would be a better fit for that person to go to a therapist.
Yes, and I've actually done
Mhm.
that, and I've done the
Mhm.
process, and I carefully picked my therapist, and I just lost you, Lisa. Are you there? Lisa? Lisa? Hmm.
You're calling isn't accepting messages right now.
Oh,
I'm back.
hi. Where'd you go?
My computer died. So we are still being recorded.
Okay, you're gonna have to cut a bunch out then, huh?
Yeah, yeah, no problem. That's fine.
Okay, okay. So when I did the therapy, I can't say it wasn't useful. However, I really reached a point where I wanted to get on with it. I really didn't care. And I told the therapist that, and he was also trained in doing cognitive work. So we went forward. Okay, what
Sure.
action steps would you like to take? What is it that you'd like to be doing instead? And so on. And we worked it from a typical traditional therapy to cognitive behavioral therapy. And all that means cognitive, it just
Your brain,
means
your
of your
thinking. You're talking
brain,
about your
yeah,
thoughts.
how you think, right? And I found that to be so useful because
Mhm.
again, I can't do a thing about the past. I can't even do much about the
Mhm.
future, but I can do what I'm doing today.
Yes.
And that's where I
Yes.
want it to be. So I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of life coaching is that you can just take your past and say, okay, it is what it is. Now we're going to
Mhm.
deal with today. What is it that I can change? Well, you can change your thoughts. And
Mhm.
it takes an open mind. I mean, not everyone is a good candidate to receive life coaching, do you think?
That's an interesting question. I think most people are,
Hmm.
but I think different kinds of coaching and different coaches are, yeah, I think, okay, what I'll say about that is this. When you hear a life coach, whether you hear their podcast or if you see their website or you watch a webinar, many times a life coach will give you a free one session, a one off to see if you're a
Mhm.
good fit. And
Mhm.
I think that is an invaluable because now that's always going to end up with an offer of working with that person more.
Which you
And,
would expect, right?
you know, yes. And that is a great thing because, as you said, I don't think everybody couldn't benefit from coaching. Even if somebody's in therapy, having a therapist and a coach is definitely something that people do. And I think that people need to make sure that that coach has that same you have a synchronicity together, that
Exactly.
somebody that you can work with, somebody that you like their style, because there are all different kinds of life coaches.
Mhm.
And there are people that are trained in different styles and different systems. There are some people that aren't trained that you just like that person, you want more of them in your life. Maybe that's life coaching that you want. I don't know.
Well,
But
I think so. I think so, and, you know, you even find it with financial planners. I mean, they
yeah.
ask you for your
Mhm,
risk,
mhm,
thermometer. How comfortable
mhm.
are you with this? How comfortable are you with that? And I think it's important that you be comfortable with the direction that your life coach is helping you go because, you
Yeah,
know, if the life coach is just so obviously a huge risk taker and you're not comfortable with that. If I mean, I don't think
right.
there's anything wrong with reaching out of your comfort zone, but I think if you jump too deep, you could drown, you know? I mean,
Well, and I think the other thing that people are often concerned about is the religious background of the life coach.
mhm,
And there are particular veins of religion that seem to have a lot of life coaches.
mhm,
And sometimes that could be a good fit for you because that person doesn't focus on prayer and philosophical beliefs to
mhm,
guide their coaching, but
right?
some do. Some
Mhm.
have a very heavy focus on spiritual things in their life coaching. So that's something that you definitely want to tweeze out if that's what you're attracted to or not.
Yeah, if that's offensive to you, if that's not a direction you
Mhm.
wanna go, okay, check that one off the list because it's not gonna be a good fit.
Yeah,
And you don't wanna make it fit because you've heard good things about them. You wanna make it fit because there's a good it's a good fit.
good
It
match.
fits
A
well.
good
Yeah,
match.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So
Judy, what we're talking about here today is buffering. And what's funny is that we've only talked about one strategy for dealing with, or, what buffering is,
mhm,
why it's a problem, and one strategy to deal with buffering. And that's working with a life coach.
okay, and that's
And
a good one.
so,
Let's go on. Let's deal with some other strategies.
okay,
Uh,
well, here's the other thing that I wanted to say is we could definitely have another session about that. We're running out of time today, but
okay.
there is something that I wanted to mention, and that is I have it's between 3 and 5 minutes, a short little video that I made about buffering that
Ah,
I want to let people know about, and I don't even know that you've seen it.
I haven't.
Okay, so I'm going to be putting that up on my Instagram site, and that is Lisa Hoffman Coaching
Okay.
on Instagram. So if that's something, if you would like to know more about buffering and some strategies, let's leave people with that little teaser, I guess, to say it's something that I put together. Oh, probably about a year ago, and I haven't shared it before, but I think this would be a really appropriate time to do that.
Oh, I'd love to see it, and I think it might help people know kind of where you're coming from too. So, you know, maybe next time we could talk about other options for ways to deal with buffering. Would you like to do that?
Would, because like I said, just saying, "Hey, stop overeating and you'll lose weight, you'll look great. Stop over drinking and you won't wake up with that feeling in the morning. Stop watching Netflix so much and you'll accomplish more in your life and that'll feel so good." Instead of just saying, "Do this and then this will happen." There are some real strategies to jumpstart you on your journey to stop buffering and then to stay on that track so that you don't fall
Exactly.
back into it again.
I think the what sometimes is really easy. It's the how. How do you make that
Yeah.
fit into your life and make that work for you? And you can explore the why. Sometimes the why is almost makes you be defensive. I think sometimes the how is an easier direction to go, don't you? Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I look forward to talking a little bit more about that. And is there any way you can put a link in the show notes, or does that have to be on your Instagram site?
No, no, I can definitely put the link for that Instagram. It's not really a webinar. It's just a one-off, and it's like I said, more
Just a
in
three
depth
to
about blood
five.
rate. Just 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think
I
it's
think
more than
that'd
5
be
minutes.
great. That'd be
Be
great.
fun.
Okay,
Cool.
sounds good. This has been
Okay.
fun.
Well, we'll talk more about this in the future next week, and we'll see you then.
Sounds good, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
See ya.
great. Bye-bye.